The night sky over Earth had never looked so calm, yet in the deep darkness beyond the moon, something moved. It was silent, it was hidden, and no telescope on Earth had detected it yet. Out in the vastness of the solar system, past the orbit of Pluto, enormous shadows glided between the stars. They were not asteroids. They were not comets. They were not natural at all. They were ships, alien ships, so large that their hulls looked like black mountains drifting through space. Their surface glimmered with strange silver patterns, almost like scars from battles fought light years away. They moved as one, in perfect formation, with the precision of a predator stalking prey. This was the Imperial Armada, a fleet so feared. Across the galaxy that entire civilizations had surrendered without a fight at the mere sight of its banners. And now, its destination was Earth. No warning came to humanity at first. Ships didn't broadcast any messages, didn't light up the skies, didn't show their weapons. They simply came closer, week after week, slipping through the outer edges of the solar system like a cold wind before a storm. The few human probes in deep space either went offline mysteriously or sent back static-filled images of strange, jagged shapes moving through the black. By the time Earth's defense networks noticed the intruders, the Armada was already past the orbit of Saturn. From there, it was only a matter of days before they would reach Earth's doorstep. Inside a dark, windowless room deep beneath the Pentagon, a handful of military officials watched the live feed from classified satellites. The grainy footage showed dozens of alien vessels moving with an eerie grace. The largest of them was a massive dreadnought, easily 10 kilometers long, its silhouette blotting out the stars behind it. Its hull had enormous spires that looked like black cathedral towers, with glowing crimson lines pulsing between them. Even without knowing what kind of weapons it carried, one could feel the menace it radiated. General Marcus Hale leaned forward, his jaw tight. "That's no exploration fleet," he said. "They're coming in attack formation." Across the table, Dr. Lena Vorin, an astrophysicist working with the military, spoke softly. "Do they know we've seen them?" "They don't care if we've seen them," Hal replied. "They think we can't stop them." In another part of the world, high above Earth's surface, the International Space Station drifted in its quiet orbit. The astronauts on board knew nothing about the approaching danger. They looked out at the stars, seeing nothing unusual. The threat was too far away for the human eye, but not for the machines deep in Earth's hidden defense network. For decades, humanity had listened for signals from the stars, expecting any alien contact to come with curiosity or peace. Ships sent no greetings. Instead, for the first time in recorded human history, a message did arrive, not to humanity, but directly to its military high command. It came in the form of a voice, deep and resonant, speaking perfect English, as if the speaker had learned the language long ago. "This world is claimed by the Imperial Dominion. You will surrender control of your planet and its orbital space immediately. Your compliance will ensure your survival." The transmission ended there. No explanation, no negotiation, just a demand. The message played in the war room, its echo hanging in the air like the last words of a death sentence. No one spoke for a moment. The air seemed heavier. General Hale finally broke the silence. "They've already decided this is theirs." Lena's brow furrowed. "Why Earth? Why now?" One could answer. Humanity had built colonies on Mars and mining stations on the moons of Jupiter. But Earth was still the heart of the species, and it was clear the invaders wanted to cut out that heart. Across the planet, government scrambled into emergency. Meetings, public news channels still knew nothing, but deep in the classified networks, orders flew back and forth. Troop deployments were quietly adjusted. Warships in orbit were put on silent alert. Experimental defense systems, hidden for decades, began to wake, and yet, none of this stopped the Armada's advance. 3 days later, as Earth turned beneath a clear night sky, astronomers at a small observatory in Chile became the first civilians to spot something unusual. Through their powerful telescopes, they saw faint, sharp lines moving against the stars, lines that shifted position over the hours. When they tried to report it, their communication lines were mysteriously cut. Only those with high-level clearance could know what was coming. By the time the public caught wind of the truth, the Imperial Armada had reached the orbit of Neptune. Amateur stargazers began sharing blurry photographs online, huge black shapes partially eclipsing distant stars. The internet lit up with rumors. Some thought it was a hoax, some said it was a military exercise, and others whispered about aliens. The truth was stranger and far more dangerous than anyone wanted to believe. In the fleet's command vessel, High Admiral Varric of the Imperial Dominion stood before a panoramic window, watching the distant blue spark of Earth. His long, pale fingers rested on the polished black railing. Behind him, the command deck buzzed with alien officers speaking in a language of deep, resonant tones. To them, Earth was just another conquest, another world to strip of resources and add to. The Dominion's map. They had no fear of humans. The Imperial Armada had crushed species with technology far beyond anything humans could imagine. This would be no different yet. For reasons even Varric couldn't name, he felt a strange unease. The planet seemed quiet. Not just technologically, but in a way that made the hair-like filaments on his neck rise. Still, his orders were absolute. The Dominion wanted Earth, and the Dominion always got what it wanted back on Earth. The President sat in the Oval Office, surrounded by her most trusted advisors. A large holographic display in the center of the room showed the alien fleet's projected path was coming straight toward Earth without deviation, without hesitation. The Secretary of Defense spoke with urgency. "Madam President, our best estimates say they'll reach orbital range in 42 hours. We have two options: open communication or prepare for conflict." The President's voice was steady. "We prepare for both." In orbit, the first line of human defense waited in absolute silence. Sleek black warships hung in the void like shadows, their hulls designed to absorb radar and visual detection. They had been built for a war that humanity hoped would never come, a war against an enemy from beyond the stars. Now that war was at their doorstep. The Armada crossed the orbit of Uranus without slowing. The ships moved like a wall of darkness, blocking out the sunlight on their approach, and then, for the first time, the people of Earth saw them. Not through telescopes, not through photographs, but with the naked eye. Across the night sky, faint lines of crimson light flickered. Between the stars, pulsing like the heartbeat of something enormous, every news network on the planet broke into emergency broadcasts. The world now knew they were not alone. The President appeared on every screen, her face calm but her eyes sharp. "Citizens of Earth," she began, "we are facing contact with an extraterrestrial power. They have not come in peace. We will meet them with strength, and we will protect our home. Remain calm, follow emergency directives, and trust that Earth is not defenseless." In space, the alien fleet continued forward, their confidence unshaken. But hidden in the darkness between Earth and the Moon, something stirred, something the aliens had not seen, something they could not imagine. The alien armada moved with the slow, unstoppable confidence of a predator certain of its victory. They were now well past the orbit of Mars, each massive vessel casting a shadow across the cold emptiness of space. Their formation was flawless, dreadnoughts at the center, flanked by rows of cruisers and destroyers, with vast carrier ships trailing behind like enormous cities in motion. The crimson energy lines on their hulls pulsed rhythmically, as if the fleet itself had a heartbeat. Every human ship watching from hidden positions could feel that pulse like a drumbeat of approaching war inside the lead vessel. High Admiral Varric studied holographic scans of Earth's defenses. The Dominion's intelligence claimed humanity had orbital weapons and small fleets, but nothing that could challenge the Armada's strength. To the Admiral, this was just another routine conquest. His officers spoke with quiet certainty already, discussing which regions of Earth would be stripped first for resources. In their minds, this was over before it began. But the humans had not been idle. In the dark void between Earth and the Moon, it's invisible to any known scanner, a cluster of strange black structures floated silently. They were not ships in the usual sense, no engines, no heat signature, no hull markings. They looked almost like shards of night itself, perfectly still, blending into the stars. These were the Sentinel arrays, humanity's most closely guarded secret. Built in orbit over decades, their existence was known to only a handful of people on the planet. They were more than weapons. They were traps. They were waiting, deep underground, in an undisclosed location. The control center for the Sentinel arrays was alive with quiet tension. Dozens of operators sat before holographic panels, monitoring every movement of the alien fleet. Lines of data scrolled rapidly across the screens, showing power fluctuations, shield frequencies, and trajectory calculations. At the center of the room, Commander Elise Ward stood tall, her hands clasped behind her back. Their eyes never left the giant tactical display in front of her. "Range to primary target?" she asked. 2.1 million kilometers, an officer replied. "Estimated time to engagement? 31 minutes? Ward gave a single, slow nod. "Prepare all arrays for synchronized strike. No warnings, no contact. If they're here to take Earth, they won't live long enough to regret it." In orbit around the moon, a small human scout ship drifted silently, feeding live telemetry back to command. Its captain, Lieutenant Arik Danner, sat strapped into his chair, watching the alien fleet grow larger on the screen. Even from here, their scale was terrifying. Each dreadnought could have swallowed the ISS whole and still had room for more. And yet Danner's lips curled into a faint smile. He knew what was waiting for them. The aliens didn't slow as they neared Earth's defenses. In fact, they accelerated. The dreadnought at the center of the formation began charging a massive weapon, its bow glowing with a cold blue light. High Admiral Varick's voice boomed across the fleet's channels in his native tongue in order for the humans to stand down or be annihilated. There was no reply. That silence should have unnerved him. Didn't. Not yet. The first shot came from the aliens. A beam of concentrated energy, wide enough to slice a city in half, erupted from the lead dreadnought and streaked toward one of Earth's orbital defense platforms. It struck with devastating force, vaporizing the platform in seconds. Across the planet, human observers watching on classified feeds saw the explosion and felt the chill of knowing their technology couldn't match that kind of power, or so the aliens thought. From the darkness between the moon and Earth, the Sentinel arrays came alive. They didn't light up, they didn't roar. They simply shifted, dozens of jagged black shapes slowly rotating in perfect unison, aligning their hidden barrels toward the enemy fleet. Invisible to the naked eye, gravitational distortions shimmered faintly around them. Bending the starlight, Commander Ward gave the order. Fire. Space itself seemed to tear. From each Sentinel array, a ripple of distortion shot outward. Not light, not heat, but something else entirely. A weapon humanity had never dared test on any living target. The ripples moved faster than any projectile, faster than light itself, and when they struck the first alien ships, they didn't explode. They erased. One moment, a massive Dominion cruiser was there. The next, it was simply gone, cut cleanly out of existence, as if it had never been. Another ripple passed through a line of destroyers, slicing them into silent, drifting fragments. The alien fleet's formation broke instantly as ships veered away, alarms blaring across their decks. On the command vessel, High Admiral Varick's eyes widened. "What is this?" he demanded. His officers scrambled to adjust shields, but it made no difference. Whatever the humans had unleashed, it bypassed every known defense. From the moon's shadow, a second volley fired. This time, a ripple passed straight through the dreadnought's bow, severing the weapon that had destroyed the orbital platform. The colossal cannon drifted away, glowing faintly before vanishing into the void. Panic began to ripple through the Dominion fleet. In all their years of conquest, they had never encountered a species that could strike like this, silently, invisibly, with no warning and no counter. The Armada, once an unstoppable wall, now looked like prey. Back on Earth, Commander Ward's voice remained calm. "Continue firing. Wipe them out." One by one, alien ships fell. Some vanished entirely. Others broke apart into burning debris, scattering like dying embers across the black. In less than 3 minutes, Nearly half the Armada was gone. Less than 5, the remainder was in full retreat. The Dominion ships twisted away from Earth, accelerating hard toward the edge of the solar system, but humans had no intention of letting them leave. The fleeing remnants of the Dominion Armada tore across the black void at full speed, their engines burning with desperate power. The elegant precision of their invasion had collapsed into chaos. Ships bumped each other in panicked maneuvers, comms channels overflowed with overlapping screams. And the once proud Imperial banners on their hulls now seemed like fading relics of a war already lost. On the bridge of the Dominion flagship, High Admiral Varric gripped the edge of the holographic display, his knuckles pale against his scaled skin. The loss reports were coming in faster than he could process them. 70% destroyed. Shields useless. Weapons ineffective. His officers spoke with trembling voices. Never in his centuries of service had he faced an enemy capable of doing this. His mind could barely process the truth. This wasn't a battle. It was an execution, and the humans were still coming. From the shadow of the moon, sentinel arrays rotated again, their jagged black surfaces shifting with almost unnatural precision. They didn't pursue with the speed of hunters chasing prey. They moved with the patience of predators that knew the kill was certain. Each volley that left the arrays was invisible, silent, and absolute. The fleeing Dominion ships disappeared one by one, erased from the universe as though history itself had decided they no longer existed. Back on Earth, Commander Elise Ward stood at the center of the underground control chamber, her arms folded. Her eyes tracked the last remaining cluster of enemy ships. Around her, the air was heavy with the quiet hum of machinery and the steady heartbeat of humanity's most advanced weapon system. "Bring array group for online," she ordered. A technician hesitated. "Ma'am, that group is configured for I." "Know exactly what it's configured for," Ward interrupted.
"Do it."
In orbit beyond Earth, the final surviving alien ships had almost reached the edge of the moon's influence when something strange happened. Their sensors flickered. Navigation systems glitched. The stars themselves seemed to shift. The Dominion pilots shouted warnings, but it was already too late. The space around them folded. What had once been the familiar. Emptiness between planets warped and twisted like glass under pressure. A tear in reality opened before the fleeing Armada, and from within it poured an ocean of light, not warm or welcoming, but cold and unending like the depths of some ancient abyss. The alien ships tried to turn away, but the distortion pulled them in, dragging them toward the impossible rift. On his flagship, Varric stared into that expanding void. His voice shook for the first time in decades. "This is not a weapon." "Number," one answered. The rift swallowed the first ship whole, then another, and as they vanished, the Dominion crews didn't die, they simply ceased to exist. No wreckage, no signal, no trace. It was as if the humans had plucked them from the timeline entirely in the command center. One of Ward's junior officers whispered, "Where? Where did they go?" Ward's gaze never left the tactical display. "Far enough that they won't be coming back. Ever." The final moments of the battle ended not with an explosion, but with silence. The rift closed, leaving nothing but the endless stars. No Dominion ships remained, no enemy signals. Just the quiet hum of the sentinel arrays returning to their dormant state as though nothing had happened. But Ward knew this was far from over. The Dominion wasn't just one fleet, it was an empire spanning countless systems. And now, somewhere, out there in the cold distances of space, they would be learning the truth. Humanity wasn't prey. Humanity wasn't even a rival. Humanity was a threat. And threats in the eyes of an empire had to be eliminated. She turned to her officers. "Prepare the arrays for long-range operation. They send another fleet, I want to be able to reach them before they even cross Jupiter." Somewhere deep below the surface of Earth, in the vaults, where the Sentinel technology had been born, an even older program was already waking. Its purpose was not to defend Earth, but to make sure the galaxy understood one thing: humans would never again wait for an enemy to come knocking in the heart of the Dominion's capital world. The spire of command rose into the blood-red clouds like the blade of a god. Inside its obsidian walls, The High Council of the Empire gathered in the war chamber, a place where strategies had been forged for centuries, where empires had been crushed with the push of a button. Yet today, the room was not filled with the confident hum of victory. It was filled with silence. The holoscreen in the center of the chamber replayed the final transmissions from the lost fleet. Grainy, corrupted feeds showed massive warships breaking apart without visible impact. Crew voices screamed in alien tongues before cutting off into static. And then the last image, the rift. That impossible, swirling tear in space that had devoured ship after ship without leaving a single fragment behind. The moment it appeared, the recording itself seemed to shudder, as if the event had scarred reality even in digital memory. The Grand Strategist, a being whose silver-scaled skin reflected the dim light of the chamber, spoke in a voice that was calm but edged with something rare for her kind fear. 112 vessels, it's gone in less than 60 seconds. Not destroyed. Erased. This is not war. This is annihilation. An elder counselor, his breathing labored, slammed a clawed hand on the table. They were human, he snarled, the word dripping with contempt. A pre-FTL race when our archives first cataloged them. Their worlds should be dirt and ash beneath our fleets. How did they come to possess such power? No one answered immediately. The truth was clear. No one knew. From the shadows at the edge of the room, the Imperial Intelligence Minister stepped forward. Her robes whispered against the cold floor as she spoke. Our deep files mentioned something, a rumor from the frontier. The humans are not alone. Their weapons are built from designs that do not match any known species, and their home system contains structures older than their civilization itself. We assumed they were relics. We were wrong. A murmur passed through the council. What the humans had inherited or discovered technology from some ancient race. It could explain the impossible defense. But that raised a darker question. What had happened to the builders of such power, and had humanity surpassed them? The Grand Strategist turned back to the flickering hologram of the rift. This is not just a weapon, it is a message. Are telling us that borders mean nothing to them, that distance means nothing. They can erase our ships from across their system. They can reach any world we hold. The counselor who had spoken earlier hissed in frustration. Then we must respond with overwhelming force. Assemble the second and third armadas. Burn their world before they... What? The intelligence minister cut in, her eyes locking on him. Before they erase those armadas. 2, you think they will wait for us to arrive again? The humans have shown restraint. They could have followed the survivors and struck deeper. They didn't. That means they are warning us. They want us to be afraid, and it is working. The silence that followed was heavier than steel. Finally, the Emperor himself spoke. His voice was deep, resonant, carrying the weight of centuries of conquest. Fear can be answered in 2 ways. With surrender, or with greater fear. I will not bow to a species that hides in one small system. If they possess ancient power, then we will take it from them. I will summon the World Forger fleet. We will not simply destroy Earth. We will claim it, strip it, and leave nothing but a hollow shell. The council bowed in unison, though the air was thick with unease.
Outside.
The spire, the crimson sky, burned with the light of the Empire's war factories beginning their work. The World Forger fleet was not an ordinary armada. It was a moving planet of metal, an engine of destruction capable of swallowing worlds. The Emperor had made his choice, but in the black void between the Dominion and Earth, humanity was already watching. They were preparing something the Empire could not imagine. Far from the burning skies of the Dominion's capital, Earth floated in the black sea of space, quiet, calm, almost fragile. From orbit, its blue oceans and green continents seemed harmless. But in the command chamber buried beneath the rocky mountains, there was nothing harmless about the mood. The room was lit only by the shifting blue glow of holographic projections. Massive tactical maps hung in the air, showing the movement of something enormous, a cluster of red markers crawling. Across the void toward the Sol system, the lead marker pulsed like a heartbeat. It was not a single ship. It was the World Forger fleet. General Hayes stood at the center of the chamber, Hands clasped behind his back, jaw tight. His uniform was plain, but his eyes were sharp and cold. "Estimated arrival time?" he asked. 17 days, sir," answered a young officer. "But their lead ships are already pushing beyond safe speed. They may arrive sooner." 17 days. It was more than enough time. Hayes didn't just want to win. He wanted the Dominion to remember this defeat for the rest of their history. Across from him, Dr. Elena Voss adjusted her glasses and leaned over the holographic map. She was not military, but her projects had shaped humanity's defense for the past decade. She tapped a section of the projection that shimmered with strange swirling patterns. "The Sentinel arrays won't be enough this time," she said calmly. "The World Forger is different. Its core structure is protected by a field we have never encountered. A direct energy strike will fail, but we can end this another way." "Is it?" Eyes narrowed. "The rift weapon." Voss shook her head. "No, something older. Something we've been building in secret since the first alien scouts tested our borders." She pressed another sequence into the table, and a new projection rose from the floor. Not a weapon, not in the traditional sense. It was a lattice of dark satellites positioned beyond the orbit of Pluto, invisible to anyone scanning from outside the system. "Project Black Veil," she said. "A gravitational weapon. When activated, it will collapse a section of space around the target into a singularity, not a black hole, something more selective. Anything inside the radius will be crushed into non-existence, but nothing outside will be touched. It cannot be blocked. It cannot be outrun." For a moment, no one spoke. Even hardened soldiers stared at the projection as if it were a ghost. Hayes finally broke the silence. "If we use it, the Dominion will know we have it. We'll lose. The advantage of surprise for good." Voss's voice was steady, but there was an edge of steel. "General, after this, they will never come here again. Ever." Hayes nodded slowly. "Then prepare it. But do not trigger it until my order." 17 days passed like the closing jaws of a trap. Humanity's fleets positioned themselves in the outer system, not to fight, but to lure the Dominion's Armada into the weapons kill zone. Civilian traffic vanished from the edges of space. Every channel of communication went silent. From the outside, Earth looked abandoned, vulnerable. The Dominion's fleet took the bait. On the 18th day, sensors detected the World Forger fleet. Breaching the Oort cloud, dozens of escort ships fanned out ahead of the massive construct, each one the size of a city. Behind them, the World Forger itself emerged from the dark, its surface crawling with weapon arrays, its engines glowing like molten suns. Inside the human command chamber, every breath was held. Hayes stood unmoving, eyes fixed on the slowly closing red markers. His voice, when it came, was a whisper, but it carried to every ear in the room. Let them step into the shadow. The trap was almost ready to snap. The Dominion's fleet pushed deeper into the solar system, their confidence swelling with every passing minute. From their command ship, Grand Admiral Sith watched the human defense line slowly retreat before them. Pathetic, he thought. They could not even hold their ground. But something gnawed at the back of his mind. The human ships were not falling in chaos. They were moving with precision like they wanted him to follow. He ignored the thought. Soon, Earth would burn far away in the hidden command chamber under the Rockies. The atmosphere was so still it felt frozen. Red markers pulsed closer and closer to the invisible boundary, the black veil's trigger radius. Dr. Voss's hands hovered over the control sphere. "Another 20 seconds, she said, her voice trembling not with fear, but with the unbearable weight of the moment. "Steady, Hayes," said softly. His eyes were locked on the main projection. The Dominion ships were almost inside the... Not yet. On the World Forger's bridge, Admiral Sith's second officer stiffened. "Sir, our long-range sensors are reading gravitational irregularities. They're faint, but too late." Hayes's voice cut through the silence. Now, Voss pressed her palm to the control sphere. In the cold dark beyond Pluto, the black veil awoke. A web of satellites, invisible until this moment. lit up with ghostly arcs of energy. Space itself began to twist. There was no sound, no light in the way normal weapons produced, only a deep distortion. A ripple that moved faster than thought. On the Dominion's bridge, the stars outside the viewport bent and blurred. The World Forger's shields flared. Instinctively, but they caught nothing. The effect was not a beam or blast. It was reality folding in on itself. One by one, the escort ships vanished. Not destroyed in fire or explosion, simply erased, like their existence had been wiped from the universe. The World Forger's outer hull groaned and buckled as the distortion reached it. Enormous armor plates folded like paper. Energy readings spiked for a fraction of a second, and then dropped to nothing. From start to finish, it lasted 43 seconds. When the distortion faded, there was nothing left of the Dominion's greatest armada. No wreckage. No survivors. Only empty space, as if they had never been there. In the human command chamber, the tension snapped into a flood of quiet relief. Some officers exhaled sharply. Others simply stared at the empty space on the projection. Hayes turned to Voss. "Send the message," he said. Minutes later, in the Dominion's High Council chamber light years away, a transmission appeared. It was brief, in perfect galactic standard, and it carried no trace of emotion. "Do not come here again." The counselors stared at the words in silence. No one spoke. No one dared. In that moment, the entire Dominion understood humanity. It was not just another young race to be conquered. They were the edge of the galaxy you did not cross, and every star knew it.